Thank you for tuning in to the Parma Area Chamber of Commerce podcast. We will be focusing on everything from spotlighting our members to discussing what is happening in the chamber. This episode is brought to you by Idea Cleveland. Idea Cleveland is a proud sponsor of all the efforts of our chamber. Now, let's join the conversation at the Idea Cleveland studio in Independence, Ohio.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Parma Area Chamber of Commerce podcast. I'm Chris Simon with Idea Cleveland, and joining me today is
Sandy Johanson from Paychex.
Paychex. So you guys write paychecks for people, right?
We do, and so much more.
So much more. Why don't you tell us what else you do?
Sure. So Paychex is an organization that's been around for over 50 years. We pay 1 out of 12 people in America, and we do everything that touches an employee's life cycle, all the way from recruiting efforts all the way to retirement services. Most people think of us as just a payroll company, but we can help with just onboarding people. We can help with tax credits. We can help with HR. We can help with almost anything that employees are struggling with right now. So whatever keeps them up at night, we would love to help with that.
You know, we were talking to Phil, and, you know, there's so many companies that are having issues finding good employees right now. Mm-hmm. So that's something you guys help with.
We sure do. So we help develop onboarding solutions, recruiting solutions, so we can help cast the net farther. Right now, so many people are just able to find people all over the world right now to be able to work for them. And so we can help with devising a program that can help find those people. So we partner with, like Indeed, you can get a discount off of that if you're partnering with us for that. And we also just can help with building knockout questions. So when they are filling out an application, if they don't fill out exactly how they should be filling it out, or if they don't meet one of the qualifications, we can have it sent an automatic, just thank you so much for applying, but not so much. So they can customize all that.
That's awesome. And you know what? A lot of people, I'm a small business owner, and we don't know that there's some tax advantages from hiring certain people even, right?
There sure are. There's so many tax advantages. So we've always had the work opportunity tax credits, which allowed people to, if they were hiring people that were veterans, if they were hiring people that were ex-felons, if they were hiring people that fell into different classifications that the government deemed were kind of struggling. So even like Hurricane Katrina victims at one time were part of those tax credits. So if they hire those, they can be anywhere from like a $1,200 credit off to like a $9,600 credit. So those are work opportunity tax credits that are still in place. And then there are also right now with the new regime, we're helping people with the employee retention tax credits. So if a company was shuttered because of a government order, or if they had a reduction in their gross receipts from like 50% last year, or now it's only reduced to 20% this year, they would be able to get tax credits. So they're pretty substantial. It could be like $5,000 for last year per person, or $7,000 per quarter for 2021. So we're loading in 2019 data, 2020 data, so that we can do these calculations to try to find these. Our average client is getting about $80,000 in tax credits, which are really, really incredible. And we've already obtained over $600 million. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you know, it's September rolling in, and this is when I have to fill out the pages and pages of paperwork for my kids to go back to school. I couldn't imagine the amount of paperwork it is to hire an employee. You guys help with that?
We sure do. So there are onboarding tools that can help with that. So instead of filling out a whole stack of papers, the I-9, the W-4, all that stuff, we can automate that. So when an applicant is applying for a job, that can feed in. They can send them a link so that they can actually sign off on handbooks. They can sign off on their policies. They can even watch videos that have been created by the company to be able to say that, yes, they can acknowledge that. So we can help with that whole onboarding process so that they don't have to worry about that paperwork trail.
That's awesome. So now I have an employee. I got to keep track of their hours and all this compliance stuff. What can you do to help me with that?
We can do so much. So we've actually developed something called Avoid the Virus, Go with the Iris. So we have an iris time clock so that they would be able to, people were so nervous about touching the same apparatus. So we have a time clock that just reads their iris, which is awesome. We also have Geo Tracking. So for people that are out and about, they want to be able to track their time wherever they are moving, so they're not clocking in from bed or punching, like buddy punching isn't a thing. So they have that capability also of using their smartphone as a clock in, clock out device. So, and they can also use a computer we make it really, really easy for people to track their time.
Awesome. And then with the Geo Tracking you mentioned earlier was if I owned a lawn care service and I did some work in Parma, then went over to Parma Heights, then went over to Strongsville, each one of these cities needs to know that I did some work there, right?
Right, and also for job costing. So if you want to see where your costs are going for each different job that you're working on, not only tracking the city movement, we're in Ohio, which has state tax and city taxes, and it gets crazy. So that's why people turn to us so that we can help with all the certified payrolls, multi-city tracking too, which is a big thing.
That's awesome. Now you guys offer so much more, but let's go into, let's say you're watching this and you're like me and you're like a single business owner and you're just kind of starting off. How can you help us?
So a brand new business, usually first step is that they have to get a Fed ID number. They have this idea and they start with a Fed ID number. So if they are part of, they want to get a new, if they're going to have employees, then we can help with their state unemployment applications, their city. We can even help obtain a workers' comp policy number for them. So we can help with that whole onboarding. And then we can just keep all the compliance matters in hand. So usually if a brand new business is just starting out, a lot of times they don't have employees. So we can talk to them about, when they do have employees.
Oh my. So this is awesome. So Paychex, they do so much more than just write paychecks for companies. So how do people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of us by calling your executive director for the Parma Chamber of Commerce, because there are incentives for and discounts, and you'd also be able to work with me. I'm local to the Parma area, and so call your Parma Chamber of Commerce, tell them that you heard this podcast, and they would get the credit for that referral.
Awesome. So discounts to all of our members. Mm-hmm. This is awesome. We're going to have to talk about that when we're done with this podcast. So what else do you want our listeners to know? What's one last thought you want to leave them with?
Sure. People usually need to have somebody help them with all of their HR compliance and putting everything in a handbook. We always say that employees are your biggest asset, but your biggest liability. So we want to be the business behind business to be able to help with HR and also like time and attendance and onboarding, but also the tax compliance. So we assume liability and responsibility for the timeliness and the accuracy of those taxes. So we just let you focus on what you do best and let us focus on all the back end work.
Awesome. So if you're interested in learning more about Paychex and how they can help you, contact Phil. You know how to get a hold of him. And Sandy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
And you guys, thank you so much for listening. And please subscribe and enjoy your day.
Thanks for listening to the Parma Area Chamber of Commerce podcast. We would like to thank our sponsor, Idea Cleveland. Please subscribe to our podcast to be notified when new episodes are released.